Hi, I'm Garrick Backer, and I am one half of the company No One's Designs.
So Garrick, can you talk about, you're essentially what's called in the community as like a prop builder, I guess, if that's the right term. How did you fall into this like category and this hobby?
It started, well, I was always a theater kid, and I always had like the trunk of Halloween costumes that I never let my parents put away because I like dressing up. But it really came into being when The Dark Knight came out, and we decided that we wanted to do Batman costumes to go to San Diego Comic-Con in. This was back when you could still get tickets to San Diego Comic-Con. And had a lot of fun doing that. Met some friends, started doing some charitable work in costumes, started doing like fundraisers at comic book stores and things of that nature. And just like with any hobby, you end up having lots of stuff. And eventually, after a couple years of doing that, around Halloween, we were like, okay, we're gonna offload some costumes on eBay. Just put them up for, a 99-cent bid, see where it goes. And they ended up selling for quite a bit more than we thought they were going to. So after that, wheels started kind of turning. I was like, okay, well, let me see if I can do this as a side gig. Because at the time, I thought I wanted to be a bar owner. I wanted to own a restaurant and bar. And then I managed a restaurant and bar and realized that that lifestyle was terrible. And I did not want to do that. And so I kind of started focusing more on building the props and working on that business. And then it got to the point where I was doing pretty close to somewhere between 70 to 80 hours a week of work, because it was 40 hours at the office job, and then come home, work in the garage until 10 or 11 at night, repeat. And I did get a lucky break in 2016. I got cast on the one and only season of Cosplay Melee on the Sci-Fi Channel. And that was kind of the push to be like, all right, let's do this full time. And haven't gone back since. So it's been working out pretty well.
So where did you, because I'm from an outsider looking in, there's a whole underground of basically prop builders and cosplayers and stuff that do this professionally, because I've never even heard about this before until I started researching you back in December. Where did you learn how to do all the things that you and your wife do? Is it self-taught? Did you go to school for it? Like that kind of thing?
I had some basic skills from doing theater, like behind the scenes stuff there. I had also, when I was younger, been involved in the SCA, which is a historical reenactment group. So I had a bit of like woodworking skills and just kind of knowledge on how to put stuff together. But really, I mean, YouTube University, and going on the forums and just asking, trying tutorials, also not being afraid to make something again. I think it took me 3 tries to finish my first costume. I built my first Batman costume that I ever made. I made it once, learned that was not the way to do it, threw it away, made it again, and did that. I think now I'm on my 5th or 6th iteration of that costume. But yeah, it is so easy to teach yourself how to do things nowadays. With both YouTube and Amazon, you can order anything to your house. I'm very lucky in Phoenix. We have a Reynolds Advanced Materials, which creates the resins and the silicone and all of that kind of stuff. So I can just drive down there, chat with their experts, pick stuff up. But even if you don't have that, their website's got a bunch of really useful information. But a lot of trial and error, a lot of seeing stuff and just going, okay, I can do that. I mean, my vacuum form table is literally made out of garbage. It was reclaimed angle iron, an old vacuum, and then the heating elements are electric griddles that I removed the thermostat controller on, so it'll get hot enough to melt the plastic. So, a little bit of ingenuity, a little bit of fire hazard, but I have an extinguisher and everything, so we're good.
As long as it works, that's the bottom line, right? As long as it works.
Yes.
So in your company's kind of like, it's a very good match because you do a lot of the resin casting and the vacuum forming and a lot of the plastic resin props, and then your wife does a lot of the pattern, wig making and cloth designs, correct?
Correct. Yes, she definitely. I don't do two-dimensional art. I can't draw a straight line. So she also does any of our concept art when that's necessary. But yeah, she handles all of the patterning. She's also a much better organic sculptor than I am. I can do hard edge model making, spaceships, blasters, and anything like that. But if we ever need creature design, she's way better than I am.
So talk about a little bit how you got into, because obviously like you do mainly everything. Like you said, superheroes, cosplay, lots of video game stuff, see lots of Final Fantasy stuff on your Instagram. And then you got into Proton pack building. When did you get into creating the Proton pack?
Oh man, that was a project that actually sat in a box for years. We made one pack, I want to say almost 10 years ago. It was right after we got married, I think. And it was, I had bought a set of bucks, which bucks are the form that you use to vacuum form. And my friend at the time had a very small vacuum form table, and we kind of made it work. It was very soft. We used the wrong kind of plastic, but put that away, sat for years because I didn't have a vacuum form table. Had a falling out with that friend, so didn't have access to it anymore. And then when I was really starting to think about trying to pivot to do this full time, I was going through the properties that I had. And I mean, before the Proton pack, the majority of my pieces sold somewhere between $75 on the low end and maybe $300 or more on the high end. And realistically, I would either need to do a lot more volume or I would need a higher dollar item. And so I was like, oh, I have a Proton pack. I really like Ghostbusters, and I've learned so much since then. So literally built the vacuum former so I could do it again, along with doing some armor and some other things. But pulled it all out, started going over it, replaced a bunch of the parts, cleaned up the bucks, basically rebuilt probably over 50% of them because they weren't sized quite right. And then, started looking into all the different pieces, either making them by hand. I do very little 3D modeling, but basic shapes are pretty easy to 3D model. So my resin pieces are a mix of either things that I have personally 3D modeled or things that I have scratch built. It's once I realized that I could do it all in-house and do it at a competitive price, that was kind of like the reason that I got into it. Also, Ghostbusters is one of my favorite things. When I was a kid, I loved the cartoon. So I definitely had a passion to do all the work correctly.
So let's talk about the vacuum form for a minute. You had to like carve your own parts out of wood as like a master, right?
Yep. They are, I think, every single part is built out of just scrap lumber. And that's not, the problem when you do that is that woods have different densities. So when you go to sand it, if you have two different densities next to each other, one will sand deeper than the other. So there's also a lot of epoxy spot fill on it too to even it out on the masters. But you have to go through quite a bit of effort to true all that up. And then you have to figure out where you can hide the air holes, because part of the process for vacuum forming is if you want an area to be crisper and detailed, you need to put holes in it so it sucks down. So I had to figure out, all right, so this area is going to be covered by a resin piece. So I can drill holes right here to help suck it down, and then it'll be hidden once the pack's all assembled. So there's a lot of design that goes into that. Also, how it's going to come out of the plastic. Obviously, it's a sheet that comes down and gets sucked around a form. If you have undercuts, it will lock into the plastic, and you won't be able to get it out. So my pack is actually, the bucks, I think, are in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces. And they are assembled, pulled, and then I can take them out one at a time from the back, which makes it much easier to get out and not damage the plastic while I'm doing that.
Any particular reason you chose vacuum forming? Because you are familiar with resin cast. You've done them before with some of your products.
Oh yeah. It was a ease of use, time, and cost. When I was deciding to do the packs, there already were several other pack makers out there that offered fiberglass shells. There was an idea that I could take the wooden bucks that I have, clean them up, and do a fiberglass shell that way. But that meant that I would be competing on their terms. I think it was a better choice for me to go with the vacuum forming, because as far as I know, there's only one other company that produces vacuum formed shells on a regular basis, and I don't think they do finished pieces. I think they just sell the shell kits. So part of it was the market research that I did. Also, I really like vacuum forming. I think it's a really cool process. I don't think enough people give it the kind of credit it deserves. I mean, it's what the Stormtrooper armor was made out of. So that, combined with price, it's also much cheaper to build vacuum form pieces than to do an entire mold for a fiberglass shell. I mean, just in silicone alone, you're probably looking at $200 to $300 investment just to do that. It didn't even cost me that much to build my entire table. And silicone wears out. Your molds will eventually die, which means you have to do it again. Unless I break it or it catches fire, my wooden bucks are ever going to wear out.
Right, and there's like I said, like we mentioned this in the video when I interviewed Chris as well, the head of the NorCal Ghostbusters. There's no wrong way to build a pack. There's just different construction methods. You know what I mean? There's a million different construction methods, hundreds of different construction methods, and like not one may be. It's just like you said, it's like a Hyundai and a Lexus. Like they're both cars, they both run, but they have different features or different positioning of their parts, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've seen people build solid wooden packs. If the only tools and techniques you have is like woodworking, more power to you, but that's got to be 50 plus pounds. That's crazy.
What's the biggest project you've worked on, and as far as prop building, whether it's a personal project or a commission project?
I built, for a personal project, I built an entire suit of Gordon Freeman armor. And that was probably one of the biggest things I did. Oh, and we also built the drive suits from Pacific Rim. That was a crazy amount of work. And that was a mix of resin casting, vacuum forming, 3D modeling. My wife sewed all of the undersuits. It was a bunch of effort. But those are probably my two biggest, like, multiple months, full body costume kinds of things that I've done.
Oh, like while I've been researching prop builders and stuff, I've seen people who go as big as like, hey, if you pay me $250,000, I'll remake the DeLorean from Back to the Future.
Yeah, yes, there's another company that comes to the Barrett-Jackson auction that we have up in North Scottsdale every year. I think they're called Fiberglass Freaks, and they make the 1960s Batmobile. And you can go to them and pay them like $200,000 and get an Adam West Batmobile. So yeah, you have everything from there all the way down to what I used to be doing is, some guy that's got a 9-to-5 that sells, stuff on Etsy or something else on the side for extra cash.
Now, what's the biggest misconception for people in your industry that you think people don't understand or realize?
Just because you like it doesn't mean that it's profitable. It's still a business, and there are things that I like. There are things that I've made, and yeah, it's not all of it sells. Like, you have to. Some people think that just because they like making things and they're good at it, that they can turn it into a business, and that's just not the case. I have got molds of things that we absolutely love. We did a realistic version of Hiccup's helmet from How to Train Your Dragon. Like one of the only things we've ever competed with. Got second place at the LA Comic-Con's prop competition with it. And I think I've sold like 3 of them. You know what I mean? It's not for not being a good piece. It's just there's not a market. The people that really like How to Train Your Dragon are like 6 and don't have $300 or $400 to spend on a helmet.
I think it also comes down to timing. Obviously, with Afterlife originally coming out this year, your Proton Pack stuff probably surged in time, and then I commissioned a sword from Final Fantasy VII, obviously right as the game came out. So I think timing has a lot to do with it too. Like as something starts to come up again, it goes up and then it goes down again.
Yeah, and you'll see peaks and valleys with that. There's also certain franchises, for whatever reason, stick around. I call them evergreen franchises, and Ghostbusters is one of them. Star Wars, Star Trek, Battlestar Galactica. Those are the ones that I can rattle off the top of my head, but they've been around, since before there was the internet to categorize all of this stuff. I mean, the RPF, which is the single biggest replica prop forum, started its life off as the lightsaber replica forum until they got a C&D from LucasArts and changed their name, and also kind of widened their horizon. But yeah, you have to do your research to know when something's going to be big or if something's going to be big, and then also think about, how long is this going to stick around? Borderlands is a good example. There are still definitely people that do Borderlands cosplay and do their props, but when those games were really hitting their stride, there was a huge uptick in people making the psycho masks and all of that. And then now you started to see it kind of trickle back down. So you also have to learn to live with those waves or hills and valleys.
Do you have to deal with that stuff at all? Because obviously, certain cases, putting a logo on a T-shirt is a no-no, but you're making something and things that don't exist. You know what I mean? If there's no Proton Pack replica that's officially licensed by Sony, I can buy. You know what I mean? So, do you run into problems with that? If you do, how do you handle those problems? You respect them. There is some interesting issue. I'm not a lawyer, but this is obviously what I understand. There's a difference between copyright, trademark, and patent. And the Supreme Court also has said that they will not be the judge of fashion. It's why the fashion industry, they rip each other off so much, because you cannot copyright a clothing design. It's also why companies like Coach and Louis Vuitton put their logos over everything, because you can trademark the logo. So there's a lot of wiggle room and gray room in costuming and prop making. And on the other side, it's bad publicity for the companies to come after the people that are making stuff for their most ardent fans. Usually we're just ignored. The prop, it depends on who the IP holder is. Paramount is pretty nasty when it comes to Star Trek, but there's also more licensed Star Trek props than I think any other company out there, or any other IP out there. So I've had one cease and desist from Marvel because Jackie did a sculpture of Baby Groot and it just so happened that after we got a week or two after that cease and desist, they released the official Dancing Baby Groot statue. So sometimes you'll see that, if there are plans for an official one, they may go in and tag everybody that's making a fan version. But you just go, okay, and move on. You're okay, sorry, I'll just back up.
It would cost them more money to pay their lawyers to actually sue me than they would ever get from me. So they just send you a scary letter and you respect the letter and you move on to the next project.
I remember somebody telling me once too, it's oh, well, they're not paying for the Proton Pack, they're just paying for my time making it and I'm giving it to them.
Yeah, there's a lot of armchair lawyering when it comes to that kind of stuff. Oh, yeah, I'm being commissioned to do the assembly work. I'm not selling a full thing. I'm selling a kit, so it's different pieces. And I mean, hey, it's worked for the gun manufacturers. So there is. The thing is all of those theories have never been tested in court, and so they sound great, but I wouldn't hang my hat on them I don't want to be the test case. Let's put it that way. So if Sony came down today and was just like, no more making this stuff, I would go, okay, yes, and find something else. I'm not sure if he's still around, but there was a maker for Batman costumes several years ago that he would make the costumes nearly identical to most of the movie ones, but he wouldn't put the logo on. So that's how he got around it, because the actual costume itself, again, you can't copyright clothing, which they consider that clothing. So as long as he's not using the trademark logo, he never really got bothered. I think he might have just retired. He was kind of an older gentleman, if I remember.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of the higher end prop builders are they do this, they're all retired because, they all have their retirement and they just kind of make it on the side, which is why I think when I was doing my research, Fincher Technologies, like a father-son team, do these $5,000, $6,000 packs with animatronics and smoke and all this stuff, but they're like a 2-year waiting list.
Yep. And I actually, somebody last year who bought a pack wanted the Fincher smoke kit, light and smoke kit installed in it, and I think I waited 6 months-ish just for that one part. And I told him that up front when we were discussing it. I was like, all right, so you're gonna have, I will have a point on this build that I physically have to stop because I have to install this kit, and if it doesn't show up, the pack can't progress. And they were fine with it. They weren't in a rush. So, but yeah, Fincher Technologies produces really nice pieces. I generally use the GB Fans electronics or build my own because GB Fans' stock sometimes always isn't there. But
it's also more expensive. Try to keep the cost low because your stuff's slow. So if you program, I think on your prop video, you program your own board, which was what, $4 or something, like on Fry's or something.
Exactly. It's a little the microbit, the BBC microbit. Yes, it was designed for children to use, so it was at the exact level that I needed it to be. But yeah, in the video we did that. I believe in your pack, actually, not only do you have the GB Fans sound kit, but also the light kit for the wand and for the cyclotron. When I can buy those, I do, because they have, again, I'm programming a board for a child, so I can't get all of the neat effects that the GB Fan boards have. So it'll go back and forth, and I usually tell people that up front because I try to keep stock in on pieces. So I'll usually tell people, hey, my standard is built with this, but right now I have this in stock, so you're getting an upgrade.
What's also cool is that if you opened your pack in the back, since you're using the GB Fans board, you can easily add the other things like the smoke ventilator if you wanted to, because it's plug and play literally, because you're using the same electronics.
Exactly. Yeah. They do a good job of kind of streamlining the whole electronic process, because it used to be, I have out in my shop some of the older kits. Man, talk about a nightmare trying to wire it all together, making sure that your leads are right, making sure that you're not, you haven't flipped a ground, and so it's now constantly firing whenever you turn it on. I've had that happen before.
I think it's a really interesting time to be alive to make this stuff, because 10 years ago none of this stuff was available. You know what I mean? You had to almost build it custom, everything yourself, with very little things outsourced. Now people are making, you even make, just if you don't want to build a pack yourself, you can send kits to people, just unpainted and vacuum formed, and they're good to go, which I think is incredible. It says about today's technology.
Oh yeah, and the internet being able to bring people together. I've gotten to the point where I've moved most of my stuff over to my own website to sell, just because then I don't have to share a cut. But when I started, the reach on Etsy was groundbreaking, and it's also not as, I still will sell on eBay, just because, again, you got a global reach there, but Etsy definitely is very good for anybody that's planning on starting this. Just work Etsy's cut into your price basis when you first start, because you can't buy the kind of reach that website gives you.
Is there a reason, I should talk about that a little fast, is there a reason you used to have an Etsy store? Is that the reason why it's removed, just because the cut was too big to
They did a couple of things where they were increasing the cut. They were screwing over people that sold large high-dollar items with their algorithms and with like how searching worked. And they wanted you to pay to get their like Etsy premium to kind of fix that. And at that time, you know, I had done that video with Punished Props. I had been thinking about moving everything over to my own website, kind of did the math on what what Etsy's cut was costing me per year versus what it would cost me to self-post. And it made way more sense to self-post. So yeah, I moved all of that over to my own store.
That's cool. And going back to the pack for a second, it's such a low price point compared to other builds. And like, not only that, but you offer free shipping on something that weighs 20 pounds.
Yeah.
It's actually really, really impressive. And matter of fact, I chose you based on three factors. One was your price point. Obviously, it was the lowest price point I saw for a completed pack. No, it didn't have the rumbler in it or 2 speakers or the smoke kit, but that was fine. I didn't need that. Second was when I reached out to you in December, you were very professional about answering any questions I had. Here's what the pack weighs, here's what it includes, here's how everything works. If you have any questions, let me know. And the third thing was actually the third and deciding factor was your Punished Props video. There's a lot of studios that have them and have like little like 60-second trailers, but not an in-depth, here's how I make it start to finish. That video is what really sold me. Here's how he makes it, here's what he does, and it was so clear. I was like, this is the guy I want to commission.
Yeah, and we filmed that video in 1 week. That was the fastest I have ever put a pack together, and we kind of cheated. I built the wand beforehand. Or I shouldn't say completely built it. I cast all the pieces, did all the assembly and cleanup. So it was just like, and like a baking show, here's the wand. Because that could have been a whole video on its own. So yeah, that video, it did really well. Bill is a great guy. His channel is phenomenal. He's been a pioneer when it comes to doing like video content, really in-depth instructional video content on how to do all of this stuff. I was a fan of his before we worked together, and yeah, it definitely really helped.
So what's on the table with all these conventions being canceled and stuff? I mean, does that leave you more room to be creative and create new things, or is it less? I mean, obviously it's less advertising for you because you show up in full costume and advertise your business, but like, how is that affecting you on your business level?
It has slowed things way down, that's for sure. Luckily, there's that the pandemic unemployment thing got passed because you just saw a sudden drop in sales and even like website visits. Just people stopped shopping basically for all of this. So yeah, I mean, it was scary when it was first starting to happen because we were like, well, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I guess I'll go back and get another job if things don't turn out. But as of right now, doing all right. I really don't see many cons actually coming through this year, or at least none that I want to go to. I don't want to get COVID, My father-in-law is, a polio survivor, so I don't want to infect me and then infect him. It's just, but I think next year, or as soon as things let up, I think it's going to be a big pressure release valve. I think that there's a lot of hunger for people to get back out there. And I think that there's a lot of people that now have a bunch of time on their hands that have been working on stuff at home. I've noticed that the stuff that I have been selling recently have been kits, because I think people want to, have something to do while they are quarantined. But yeah, I mean, it's wild times that we live in.
So where can people go to find more information, or even commission a piece if they feel so inclined? I mean, do you even take commission pieces? Like, hey, I've never seen you build this, but can you build X,
Yes, I do. Actually, if you go to our website, noonsdesigns.com, I have a commission form that you can fill out there. And then also our storefront is on there for any of the things that we make on the regular. But yeah, now commissioning is a weird bird, because part of what goes into that is, does it have resellability to someone outside the commissioner? If it's your custom character and you want it, you know, a full suit of armor that you designed and you want me to build it, that's going to be more expensive because I can't sell other copies. If you want, you know, Space Marine armor, or, you know, from, why can't I remember the Aliens? Good Lord. Got Colonial Marine armor. That is something that I could look and see what the market's like, and then maybe make it cheaper for you because I plan on selling other kits. So yeah, commissioning is, there's a lot that goes into it. But yes, I do commissions.
That's amazing, Garrick. Thank you so much again for talking with me today. And go to his site, look at his stuff, reach out, get a quote on something if you need something made, you know, or just buy one of his kits, because you know what, you're stuck at home, you know, build something yourself, spray it, learn how to do it, you know, that kind of thing.
Definitely.
So Garrick, thank you so much again, man. It was a pleasure talking to you, and stay safe and healthy.
You as well. Have a good one.